So if I hold this, go on the wall. I can't believe that's in the game. Okay, guys, we got to talk about something because as you just saw in the intro, that's dumb. That is ridiculous. But before we get into exactly what that was that we just saw, let me just back up and explain how we got here in the first place. So a version of this mechanic that I'm just going to be calling the wall dash has actually been around for a while. The earliest version of it that I could find was back in December of 2019, where Evampel uploaded this highlights video, and at about 2 minutes in, he showed himself doing this weird mechanic that just looks like a bunch of button matching in chaos. It's totally uncontrollable, and there's no way you could use that competitively. He's clearly just like mashing buttons, and it is making him move fast without boost, but there's not really anything there. Your first thought might be that this could be a great recovery mechanic, but the problem is when you're trying to recover, you're trying to go down to the ground, and with this mechanic, you can't help but go straight up to the ceiling. So there was a little bit of hype around this mechanic, but really it wasn't that much because people quickly realized that it's not that effective. Even Squishy ended up making a tutorial for it, but in the video, he also mentioned that it's not really useful competitively because you can't control it.
Right? If you're just stuck chain dashing on the wall all the way downfield and you're just flipping onto the wall, how are you going to turn around quick? You can't, right? So there's not many uses to it, honestly.
He basically just said it looks cool for celebrations after scoring. But actually, a day after Squishy uploaded that video, which was still back in July of 2020, a YouTuber named Sebadam released his own version of it. And this new version actually is useful competitively. Like, you can actually control where you're going on the wall. But before we go any further, I want to let you know that this video is sponsored, but it's actually for a very good reason, and I'll get to that in a second. This video is sponsored by Displate. If you don't already know what Displates are, you're in for a treat because they are seriously the best posters I've ever used. These posters that you've seen behind me in my recent videos and streams, those are Displates. They're metal posters that are super easy to set up, and they look amazing. You just put the protective leaf on the wall, and then you put the magnet on top of that, and then you just put the Displate there. There's no hooks or nails required. This also means that you can just easily replace them and switch them around however you want, whenever you want. And for every Displate purchase, they actually plant one tree in Africa, so you'll be helping the planet as well. And the reason I'm actually extra excited to tell you guys about this is because I am now officially announcing that I am racing with Striped and Thanovic to 500,000 subscribers. And Displate is actually sponsoring that race, so the first person to reach 500K actually gets Alpha Boost. So if you will, please hit subscribe if you're not already. I really would appreciate that. We're currently in the lead, but it is pretty neck and neck. And if you want to get some Displates for yourself, just hit that link in the description. For 1 or 2 Displates, you get 26% off, and for 3 or more, you get 36% off. So thank you to Displate for sponsoring the video and our race to 500,000. And let's get back to talking about this mechanic. So the big problem with this mechanic, the wall dash, I'm sorry, Evampel, I don't want to call it the dinner dash. Anyway, originally the problem was that you would end up on the ceiling, right? And the reason for that is because you have to hold power slide in order for it to work. Otherwise, if you didn't hold power slide, then your car just wouldn't stick to the wall in the first place. Well, Sebadam actually figured out a way to do this without holding power slide. And because of that, it actually allows you to like readjust in between each jump so you can stay perfectly level on the wall while gaining speed. That's a massive benefit in case you didn't realize. Like, it's basically doing a wave dash on the wall. Obviously, it's not quite as fast as using a wave dash on the ground, but still, you're gaining speed on a wall without using boost. He even showed some clips of him using this in a real game where he actually scored a goal in a situation where it otherwise would have just been impossible. But the problem with this mechanic, and the main reason why it didn't really catch on very much, is because this mechanic is way harder than it actually looks. Let me just show you here. So the way you do this mechanic is actually super simple, but you'll see why it's so difficult in just a second. So it's literally as simple as going on the sidewall and then side flipping as fast as you can. And when I say as fast as you can, I mean literally like lightning fast. So I'll just go on the sidewall here and then side flip super fast. Like that. And you can see even then, it wasn't fast enough for that second one. But the reason why this is so difficult is because it's easier when you're going faster. So if I'm already at max speed, then I can do it pretty consistently, right? I just did it twice in a row there on the wall. But when you're already at max speed, then that obviously just defeats the purpose. So you would most often want to use it when you're going slow, like at about this speed. But when you're going slower, it becomes so much harder to actually do it. Like when I'm moving slow like this, I can only get it to work on the sidewall like 10% of the time. I don't know if my fingers just aren't fast enough. I'm sure there's other people that could do it better than I can. But for me, this just seems like impossible to get consistent when you're moving at a slow speed. But anyway, this actually leads me to the present moment with where this mechanic is at. So what made me decide to make this video was something that happened when I was watching the We Play Invitational tourney that went on last week. When I was watching, someone actually pulled off this mechanic perfectly at the highest level of Rocket League. It's almost like for the past year behind the scenes, they had been working on this. Either that or they just suddenly decided to start working on it now. Anyway, here's the clip that I saw when it happened. So Atomic on Team Envy ends up going up for an aerial here, and he lands on the backward, and you'll just watch what happens.
His next teammate behind him, beast mode at 11. That's only the 9th.
Did you see that? Did you see that right there? Here, I'll play it again. He uses all his boost for this aerial, lands on the backboard, and then uses the flip recovery thing to keep his momentum going. So when I was watching this tournament, I was just like casually enjoying it. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, what the heck? That's something that I've never seen done in competitive play before. So I typed in chat, like, doth my eyes deceive me? I didn't actually say that. And it turns out that this wasn't even the first time that this was done in the tournament. There were some other people that responded like, yeah, they've actually seen people started doing this recently. Like in the previous day of this tournament, AJ was seen doing this, that same mechanic, the wall dash. Both of these examples here clearly didn't result in a huge change in the play, but considering how suddenly this mechanic is being used so often at this level, I don't think it's going to be long before we see someone actually score a goal or make a save specifically because of that mechanic. Like, flip resets first became widely known back in 2017, but they didn't score a goal in RLCS with one until like 20 months later. And if you use that same timeline and apply it to the wall dash, it pretty much lines up. Like, it's been about 20 months since it was first discovered. So this mechanic has finally been proven to be competitively viable. But there's something about it that has me worried. If you remember in the intro, I showed myself performing this mechanic in a way that should not be possible. So let's talk about that now. Specifically for keyboard mouse players, they actually have the ability to exploit this completely. In fact, this isn't even considered exploiting because it's not a bug and they straight up give you the option to do this. Everything I use to achieve this mechanic is just a feature in the game. So firstly, the only binding that you need to change is your jump button here. By default, it's on right click, but I can just click on this and then push my scroll wheel forward. And now you can see my jump key is bound to my scroll wheel forward. And that's literally all you need to do. So now I can literally just drive on the wall and I'm going to hold W and E on the keyboard and then just spin the scroll wheel. Watch this. Isn't that crazy? I just got to max speed faster than I would have if I had used boost normally. And I didn't even have to use any boost at all. And check this out. I actually have the Logitech G502 mouse. So there's this little button on it that allows me to like unlock the scroll wheel. So if I just press that, now the scroll wheel can just scroll with almost no friction, which means it'll only stop scrolling if I press this button again. And I think you can see where this is going if I do that same thing and then just spin the scroll wheel. That's just ridiculous. So there are actually some potential problems with this mechanic. Firstly, the obvious one, if you're binding your jump button to your scroll wheel, then you obviously can't jump normally anymore. So if you would want to like fast aerial or something, you would have to inch the scroll wheel forward for each individual jump. I tried testing this out to see how easy it was to learn, and that right there is going to make this not worth learning. But there are actually ways to get around that issue. Like, some people set up macros so if you spin your scroll wheel, it also does the right click. So if someone ends up doing that, then they could literally just play keyboard mouse how they would normally. Plus, if they spin the scroll wheel, they have that extra tool to their advantage. Like, there's no disadvantage to doing that. It's literally just an advantage for keyboard mouse players. I'm obviously not going to show you how to do that. Macros are just extremely frowned upon, and I think this is a perfect example why. That's also why I'm not setting up a macro to test this out. But regardless, this mechanic is just insane right now, and I'm really curious to see if they're going to do anything about it. And by the way, I discovered this mechanic from Istra on YouTube, so if you want to check him out, the link is in the description. He's the only guy I've seen post about this specific method anywhere. And he alone has a bunch of clips already of him making saves and scoring goals strictly because of that mechanic. But yeah, that's about it. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be reading a lot of comments on this video. Like, do you think this should be patched? And if you do, how would you recommend patching it? Because the obvious ones still have workarounds. But yeah, other than that, don't forget to subscribe. Help me win that race to 500K. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next Monday. There's actually a banger coming out next Monday, so hope to see you there.